Hello, everybody. As you can see, I am in the car. Today it's a very spontaneous interview because I was stuck in the traffic, so I could not get on time to the place where I usually do the interview. So I want to welcome you to our very special interview today from the car. I am just inviting very beautiful, fantastic lady ADINA HAROZ from Israel, who accepted my invitation for the interview, and she will be speaking about her performance at the Third World Harp Congress in Vienna in 1987 when she was performing a new piece there, right? You were also
Yes.
announcing it, or we will see it at the Congress at the video, which will be broadcast, of course, after this interview. And I would like very welcome ADINA today, and I'm so glad that you are with us today, and you can share all the experiences, memories, and maybe you can also talk about the Israel competition because you are very, very often there, and you are really part of that event as well. So welcome, ADINA.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. I was very surprised when you did it because I hardly remember this Congress. Most of the Congresses, I'm not very good in history. And this is a long time ago. And I usually look up to the next project and not so much backwards. But after hearing all the interviews up to now, you refreshed my memory, and I did some work, and I looked at the material. I didn't keep much, by the way. I don't have much, but I found some other very interesting things. And if you ask me about this Congress and the previous ones and the ones that were following, I was very much involved with them. So
Excellent.
what would you like to know first?
Well, I would like, of course, the memory. I'm sorry, I will just put out this because I'm still blocked. So, if you could just tell me something about your experience from the Vienna, because as you have seen also in the video which I sent you, that you were speaking about your piece. Was it a new composition which was written for that occasion, or have you made a premiere at that congress, or how was it?
I was involved with a chamber group called the Jerusalem Modern Players or something like this. We were 4 people, and the music was very special. Steve Hornstein, which is called Stefan, was the composer and the organizer of this group. And he got some budgets from the municipality of Jerusalem and probably also from the culture office or something. And we were meeting a lot, and he wrote me this piece. And when the Congress was, we were talking about it, I asked him whether I can play this in the Congress, and he was very happy. I believe, I don't remember very well, but I believe that I made the first performance in Jerusalem somewhere before. And then I brought it to Vienna. I loved the piece, and it suited me very much, and I was happy to do it. Now, what I remember from Vienna is very special because I will tell you later how I started playing the harp, but I wanted to tell you that all of you that my father studied in Vienna. He was a flutist, and he studied in Vienna. And when I was in Vienna, I just looked around at the houses, the big ones, and I thought maybe this was the place he studied. Maybe this was the place. When I entered the hall of the Vienna Philharmonic, I said, I'm sure he listened to music over here. It was all history for me. You heard several times from the interviewers that the weather was very hot. And in the palace where I played, it was really, sometimes I think in Israel we are prepared for the heat, so we know how to put the air condition. But there was no air condition.
Okay.
But between the concerts, there were some showers that were terrible. I will tell about it later. But that evening, the only thing that I remember is the fact that I had a skirt that was like an envelope, layers. And suddenly my leg was exposed, and I was very embarrassed. But both my hands were working, and I had no way of covering myself. And when you sent me the recording, I saw it, that I'm playing it the whole time, but suddenly I'm covering the leg. And when I finished the performance, Ruth Ingefield, her daughter, was speaking about her. I loved this woman so much. She came to me and said, Adina, you weren't generous enough. this I remember. And there is another story that has nothing to do with the playing. In the Congress, there were a few people from Jerusalem, from Israel, and one of them was the judge Shiloh, which was the legal in the legal committee. He was the head of the legal committee of the Harp competition. And Esther Herlitz, which you probably remember, she was there as well. And he decided to go, it was Friday, to go to the synagogue and later to the dinner in the Jewish community somewhere behind the synagogue. And he said to me that because his wife was quite old, he's going to take a cab. And I said, no, I prefer to walk. And he said to me, are you sure you know how to get there? I said to him, I've seen the place, no problem. I have a very good sense of orientation. And my son, my little son, used to say, in Hebrew, you say orientatia. Tatia, used to say to me. So, okay, Shiloh and his wife went to the synagogue, and I started walking. And suddenly, buckets of water were falling from the sky. It was so rainy. I don't remember if I had an umbrella or not, but I couldn't do half a meter walking. It was terrible. I stood in the entrances of shops waiting for the shower to stop. And when I arrived in the place, and by the way, the ring is round, and I lost my orientation in the rain and the umbrella, and I couldn't look anywhere. When I got there, it was the desert. And then Shiloh said to me, Tatia, orientation. This I remember. It was really, really funny. Oh, and one other time that we went to the concert in the Vienna Philharmonic Hall, there were again showers, terrible showers. So I took a cab. And the driver, I don't know what origin he was, he drove like crazy. And I said to myself, I came here to play. I didn't come here to die. What's the matter with this driver? But as you see me, I didn't die then.
What a beautiful memory that you have such a special, very detailed memory as well. I said like myself, that's crazy. I have no idea where I was living, which place, how I got to the place where I was playing. I have no memory on that at all. I only memorize what I played, how I felt at the time, and of course about the Congress. But all these details I have forgotten. So admiring.
That's the difference between us. You're concentrating on music and I'm concentrating on everything around. I remember the little hotel I stayed in. On the way to the palace, there was an artwork on the wall of birds made out of tiles, ceramic tiles or so. When people are going to Vienna, I send them to look at this piece of work, but I can't tell them where exactly it was. I must go to Vienna just to look at this piece of art. It was probably something was moving there artistically very much. So this I remember. And one more thing, that we were a group of Israelis, as you know, it was dangerous for Israelis then.
I know.
So yeah. we had some guys looking after, watching that everything is okay around us. And we have seen someone and we pointed at him and said to each other, this is the security man. After a second, he disappeared and you couldn't see him anymore. And he changed clothes. And when I was on the plane to Israel, he stood beside me and I said, it was you. How did you change so quickly? They were so very, very special.
That's really unique that you remember all of that. I would like to, for those who came late, apologize for the place where I am. As you can see, I'm in the car because I did not make it to the place because of the traffic, and it was really stressed if I can manage to get connected in the car. So we managed, we are here, but only apologize that there is no harp around me. There is no really nice, only the seat of the car and me here. But I'm so glad that we have wonderful guest today, ADINA HAROZ from Israel, who can really explain and memorize all these wonderful stories from her stay in Vienna. Because I would like to also know, when you were performing this piece, the composer was not there, right? He was not person.
No, he didn't come. No,
He did
it
not
was
come.
very expensive for us to go abroad, you know.
Of
And
course.
for most of the congresses, I got the traveling fees from the government, the Ministry of Foreign Ministry of Israel, but not the accommodations, not the fee of the Congress. Even when I was in the board of directors, I had to pay my own fee. That's how it works. It's a voluntary thing, and it's very expensive. So if he got the travel expenses, he would have come, but he probably didn't. Yeah.
Of course,
But
yeah.
in Maastricht, we had Sergio Natra. You haven't been to Maastricht?
No, no, I was too young. I was too young already in Vienna, so it was my very first experience in Vienna.
Yeah, so I was from the very first one, and it was very, very special Congress. Fia Bernhardt, she was a magician. She could get the budgets and the donations from anyone that she wanted. And the location that we were in was like we've been prime ministers or so. I was in Margaret Thatcher's room, and we could meet there in the evenings and have wine. It was a very nice location, and it was still small. And we became all very good friends, all of us. And I remember the last night we were dancing one after the other, holding the back of the other one. I still have the pictures. It was a very special experience, the first harp congress. And I don't know how I heard about it. There was no Facebook then. I didn't even have an email. Yeah. But probably through the harp competition, I had the connections and I knew about this harp congress. And I applied for the focus on the youth, although I wasn't so young anymore. And Fia Bernhardt accepted me. And I decided that I'm not going to compete with all the genius like you were later and play the very difficult pieces. I'm going to bring compositions from my country. And I made a concert, a half-an-hour program, I believe, of Sergio Natra, Paul Hindemith, Kopitman, Israeli composers, and maybe one, or maybe it was an encore, the Watching the Wheat by John Thomas. I remember Shenit told me later about an accent that I did wrong, so I learned from her in this congress. But after the congress, I got a letter from Fia Bernhardt, a very nice letter. And with this letter, I went to some organizations that I believed that I could make a LP or half an LP of Israeli music. Wow. And because of this letter, they gave me the whole LP. I did the whole recording with Israeli pieces. Some of them are very nice, some of them difficult to listen to. For example, the concerto by Josef Tal for harp and electronics. It's a very tough piece, but I was very connected to all the Israeli music I played. Because, you know, as a harpist, when you play a piece, you get to know it better from the guts, from inside. And other people felt it difficult to listen to. Right. And later I interviewed Josef Tal, and I made an article for the Harp Review. It was very interesting, the things that he told me, and he had a sense of humor. It was fantastic. I'm sorry he's not alive anymore.
And I know that also his pieces were required for the competition in Israel as well, right? I know that there were almost as many, very often there were pieces by him in the
but not the concerto.
Not concerto, but because they are required the Israeli pieces. So I remember that there were pieces by him also.
Yeah, you know that he himself played the harp.
Oh my!
And when my teacher Clarice Sarvash was after giving birth to her daughter, he went with them with the Israel Philharmonic to Egypt, and he played there. So he knew what a harp is, and he has a piece for cello and harp, and the harp has to compete with the low sounds, the very bass sound of the cello, and you have to play so low that I could hardly reach the strings over there. And I said to him, you know, it's very difficult. He said, yes, I know, I played it. He knew.
That's a good test, right? That is a good test when someone like the conductor or some of the people who you expect that nobody played the harp suddenly shows can play the harp as well.
Yeah, he told me very interesting thing about his studies. I think this was also in Vienna or maybe in Germany, that he studied composition. And in order to study composition, you had to learn many instruments.
Right.
So one of the instruments he chose to learn was the harp. And when he was in the class, it was this kind of class that all the pupils sit together. One is playing and the others are listening. And suddenly there was a knock on the door, and a man with white gloves entered and said, we need a harpist for a recording for a movie. So he sent the best pupil he had. And after a while, she came back crying. She couldn't do the job. And then he sent the second best student for this recording studio. And also she came back crying. And then he said to Josef Tal, you go. And he went and he managed, because it was harmony. You didn't have to play all the notes. You had to know what chord you're in and play it. And he did the job. So this was Josef Tal. What else was in Maastricht? That we had another young harpist from Russian origin, Kaganovsky, Irina Kaganovsky. Unfortunately, she died. She played there, and she played Tal's piece. And in a place where it was very difficult to play it quickly, she reduced the tempo. And when she finished the performance, I asked him, were you happy with this? And he said, perfectly. So then I learned that when a composer is finishing his piece, it's yours. You can do whatever you want with this, as long as you keep the general idea, of course. But that was the story. And another story, Esther Harlitz gave Irina Kaganovsky a bouquet of flowers. Then came my turn on Monday, and all the shops were closed, and she couldn't bring me the flowers. So she asked Irina if she doesn't mind that she will reuse this bouquet of flowers, and she brought it to me as well. This was yeah. And also in Maastricht, it was terribly hot, terribly. The window sill was full of flies. You know, they all died from the heat.
Yeah,
we were close to the river. Yeah.
It's always, I remember that really no one's mostly, except in, I don't know where it was, but it was only once when I remember that was normal weather, that we were not sweating and it was really not so hot, but almost always it's very hot. In Hong Kong last time was also very hot. I remember that. And
I believe that I believe that in Hong Kong they have the air condition, don't they?
They had. But of course, to change from hot to the air condition, it's not very pleasant for the health either. So
Yes.
you can choose this.
Neither for the Harp. Neither for the Harp.
Yeah, indeed. Adina, tell me, because you are also still in the board of the World Harp Congress even now in these days?
No. I was just for between two congresses, between the Paris Sèvres in 1990 and then the Denmark. So I was with the board when we were preparing the Denmark Congress. It was very interesting. I came specially to Denmark before the Congress, in between for the meetings, and I had many experiences then as well. Yeah.
I can imagine. And Adina, tell me, because in Israel, of course, King David is the icon for everybody from the history, but also honestly we know that the harp was still like to study harp in Israel was very unique, right? So just tell me, how did you start the harp? How did you choose the harp, and what's your path?
Well, first I want to say, and I say it a lot in my lecture concerts, we don't really know what David played on, you know. It was probably a stringed instrument, but not the big harp. And the idea of Prof to bring the competition to Israel was in times that we hardly had any harpist in Israel. I didn't yet start the harp. Well, that's interesting. I was born in a very large family. We are 7 siblings. We were, 2 of them unfortunately died. And my father, as you heard, was a flutist. Actually, he started his flute playing, you wouldn't believe it. He was a little child in the old city of Jerusalem. And he heard the music of the flute playing of a shepherd, an Arabic shepherd. And he went after this like the Hamelin flute, you know, mesmerized by his playing. And he wanted to get flute. And this man and this, I don't know if he was a man or just a grown-up, he said to him, "What are you going to pay if I'm giving you my flute?" And he said, "I'm just a child. I can't pay anything, but you can have my sandwich." You know, they were very poor people then. And he gave him this sandwich. One of my brothers says that he kept giving him every day a sandwich until his mother felt that the child was hungry, you know, when he went to school without sandwich. And this was his first flute. I have no idea how from this little flute he got to the, it's a kind of little recorder, you know, to the real flute with which he went to Vienna and was accepted in such a prestigious school. My older brother and sister say that the one who listened to the students was very impressed by his musicality. He didn't have a lot of amount of music, not many pieces, not big technique, but he had probably something from his soul that was coming through, and he was accepted. This father of mine, which I hardly knew because he died in a war when I was 2.5 years old. He left my mother with 7 children, and my mother, who was an amateur pianist, it's hard even to call her pianist. She played a little bit the piano. She saw that every one of the children will get the music and heritage from the father, and we all studied an instrument. Some of us from the 7 children became professional. My brother, the cellist, was the first cellist of the Philharmonic Orchestra. Wow. By the way, he was accompanying with the competitions in Israel until they switched to other orchestras. And a sister of mine was the first chair of several orchestras as a violinist. And another teacher, another sister played the viola, and some others played the piano, and I chose piano. In the beginning, they brought me to a teacher, which was not really a teacher, was a friend. Maybe I was 6.5. And I saw these children playing around, and I wanted to play with them. I didn't want to play the piano. But at the age of 7, I started really studies of the piano. And I learned for 10 years the piano until the age of 17. I wasn't working very hard, but probably a little bit special, because they took me to concerts of the more distinguished ones. But at the age of 17, I decided I'm going to make the finish of the high school matriculations, the exams. And for 1 year, I was a good student in school. And then I had some thoughts of maybe becoming an architecture. But as I wasn't so good in mathematics, I was afraid I won't be accepted. And then the music was there already. My elder brother, not the one who played in the orchestra, the older one, said that the harp would suit me. I had little hands, I was delicate. My last piano teacher, which was a very unique pianist, a big soloist in the United States, and married an Israeli and was for 2 years in Israel, going around to tours, but he actually was my teacher. He said, I need to have a little more strength. He was very happy with my playing and was very sad when I left, but said I need to work more strong. And the tuner of the piano said, I need to be more delicate because the piano suffers from my playing. So I went into the Academy of Music as a pianist and a harpist. My teacher, Clarissa Weisgerber, was the player of the Philharmonic Orchestra since the beginning. She was invited by Huberman. And by the way, she was accepted to the Vienna Philharmonic when they didn't accept any woman. She was accepted. But she chose, I don't know exactly why she chose to go to Israel. And that's how she saved her life from the World War II and what happened there. And before I started playing the harp, before I chose the harp, I went to Tel Aviv to the Academy of Music there, trying to get a teacher. And the dean there said to me, no way, the big teacher is now in Jerusalem, the only teacher. So I went back home. I lived in Jerusalem, and she didn't want to accept me. She said, I want pupils of 4 years of the piano, playing the piano 4 years, the age of 12 to 14, and you are 18, it's too much. 10 years of piano, that's too much. But my mother was Hungarian, and she talked to her in Hungarian, and she accepted me. And from all the children, nobody stayed. I was the only one who kept on playing. I think she was proud of me in a way. But the problem was that she played in the radio orchestra. Since she left the Philharmonic Orchestra, she had, I think, 4 more years or 5 to complete the pension. And she played in the radio orchestra. And she didn't want to do all the gigs. You know, when she was invited to play things, she sent me. I had no harp. I played on the harp of the Academy of Music. And they gave me a special permission to take it to performances. It was a small, I think, 14 line and Healy for students. And this was the first harp that I played for 2 years. And the place I was practicing in was it was called the Museum for Old Instruments. And they were all behind the vitrinas, and the harp was in the end of a long corridor in a box, in a wooden box, and I would take it out every day and bring it back. And when I was inside and the light was on, the people knocked on the glass door. They wanted to see the exhibition. Instead of putting a big note, please don't disturb, I opened the door and explained everyone. So what are you doing inside? I said, I was practicing. I'm practicing. Can we hear the harp? So I had audience. I had audience from the beginning. And I would use over and over again the same pieces for the government performances, for the president's house, for the universities, for all kinds of ceremonies. And actually, I had no time to learn a big repertoire. This was a problem. And after 4.5 years, I got married. And I left Jerusalem to a very faraway town. I went after my husband, my ex-husband. And people thought that I left the harp. I already had phone calls trying to buy my instrument. And then I decided I must go back to the center. I went back to Jerusalem. I had a copybook in which I wrote all my performances, and I had lots. And I also made some work with the orchestra, not straight away solos, because I had to learn my repertoire. But you have to understand, I had already children, 3 children by then. And I was studying step by step the main repertoire that I needed. And my teacher, who didn't teach anymore in the Academy of Music and neither in her house, I took her with my car to my apartment and she listened to my playing. And that's how I learned most of the pieces. And some of them, one can say I was an autodidact. I taught myself many, many things. And that's why I was very open to new music, because there was no one to tell me, you should do this or that. The only one that I could ask was the composer. And usually they asked me, what you choose is the right thing, they said.
That's fantastic. So did you inspire and did you requested the many new pieces by the composers, right? Or
yes, I did. I did, especially later when I started to play with my son, the trombone player of Philadelphia Orchestra, Nitzan Haroz. He is a very unique player. And, you know, not every trombone player can play with a harp, but he knows how to bring the sound to suit the harp. And in places he can play his full sound, he does it. By the way, in one of the competitions, I was walking in the free day, I was walking in the pedestrian street in Jerusalem. And I felt like sitting in a cafe, but I had no one to sit with. And suddenly I saw Susan McDonald and Linda Wood. And I said to them, you are the victims. You're going to sit with me now in the cafe. So we did it. We sat there. And I told them about my son and the fact that we played together. Because when he was in school, we already did some things together in school and besides school in some occasions. And I told them that I would like to play in Paris a duo concerto. I mean, a concert of our duo. They accepted my request. And I had a belief inside me that they thought, well, this mother is trying to push her son. But when I arrived in Paris, by the way, the place they gave us to play in, we looked and checked it. It was a museum for ceramic. And it was everything behind vitrinas again. And we knew that he can't play there because the minute he's going to give a big sound, everything will break there. So they gave us a different place. And I didn't have a harp yet, but the one who shared the concert with us, I asked if I can use her harp. And she said, yes, when we finish. I don't remember, maybe it was violin and harp. When we finish, you can play. But the last minute before the performance, she said to me, no, we have to go. You have to have another harp. So I rushed to the display of the Aoyama harps, and David Watkins was standing there. And I said to him, please save me. I need a harp. He gave me a harp. He pushed it to the hall. And I said to him, you must hear my son. He said, I can't. I'm starving. I had in my pocket some nuts and raisins. I gave it to him. He ate and he said, you saved my life. And he stayed for the concert. And after the concert, he said to me, this boy, wherever he wants to go and study, he will be accepted. And this was true. He was accepted to Juilliard and also to Boston, but he started in Juilliard, and then he started in playing the assistant trombonist in New York Philharmonic. Later, I must drink something.
But you must be very proud mother. It's fantastic. I'm so happy for you, and really bravo to your son and to you, because it's also your work. So that makes certainly you very happy.
You know, I keep saying you can give the beginning some background, but the personality is him. It's not me. And one can see now the third generation, not only in my house, also in my siblings' houses. You have people who go on with the music. I have a grandson who plays in a jazz style, very talented, 13 now. And Nitzan's son, he has a middle son who is a fantastic musician. He's going to be a singer and dancer, probably in, you know, like Broadway shows or something like this. It's in the family.
But you are really all involved in the music, and you are still in part of many of the harp events as well, because I know that we met many times when I was either competing in Israel or when I was in the jury later on. So I remember that we always met there. So you have also a part of the organization for the Israel competition.
So I must be very frank, not anymore. In a way, a little bit, but not anymore. I was a judge once or twice, I don't remember, maybe once. And then I was a legal committee for several times. And I was always, when Esther Herlitz was still here, I was always in the committees that read the recommendations. I could read in 3 languages, although I don't understand completely, but I could read between the lines what the teachers are writing. And I helped already also with the choosing of the pieces. But life brought me to different places. In a certain time, when I left my ex-husband, I went to a small town in northern Israel, and I established a hall, a concert hall for harp playing and chamber music with harp. And this place was a very big success for 13 years. People loved it. I played thousands of concerts. You won't believe it. Maybe you don't call it a concert after what you are doing, but it were just like 1 hour concert with my lecture concerts. I was explaining, I was answering questions. As you said yesterday in the interview, it was something from face to face, you know, not on a high stage. It was very intimate and people loved it. And I remember once, maybe it was in Czechoslovakia, that I met Ian Roncha in one of the old city pavement streets. And I said to him, Roncha, you came in time to buy me some jewels. He was frightened. I didn't know I was joking. And then we sat and talked, and he said to me, you know what? I envy you. I told him about my place. I envy you because you can choose what you're playing, how much, and how long. And this was true. And I had some colleagues of mine that came to play with me chamber music over there. And the stage was open also to people who wanted to compete in the competition. The Israelis that wanted to run the program, they came to me, and I would listen and give them some ideas. It was a very successful place. But meanwhile, when I was running this place, my children gave birth to their children, and I became a grandma. And I was traveling a lot because I'm crazy after children. Even before I had children, I loved babies. But when they were mine, I couldn't finish the concert of Friday in the place that I had called Imbalim to run and see my grandson. I couldn't do it, of course, with the grandchildren in the United States. Nitzan has 3 children, but I would come at least twice a year to see them as well. And they would come to Israel as well. And when I was there in the place called Zichron Yaakov, I decided that I'm too much on the road. I was going to my daughter in the north. First, she was in the south, and then she moved to the north, and then my son moved to the north. And I was all the time, when I wasn't performing, teaching, I was going there to help, to see, to enjoy. And one day I said to myself, well, it's about time I go and live in this area. So now, when we closed the place in Zichron Yaakov, because, you know, it was very fashionable, all the tourist guide would bring people. But after several years, it starts to go down. And my partners there, they were afraid that we're not going to do much money, so they decided to close. So after sitting there for another 2 years or 3, I moved to the north, and I felt that I did the right thing. First of all, I have the benefit of enjoying my grandchildren. I'm close to them. I'm very much in their lives. And besides, I discovered that the whole area of the north has no harp teacher whatsoever. And I feel that I have a big role of bringing the harp to the north. And in the past, I would go from Zichron to my daughter and my son. Now I go to this place and that place and up to the eastern side of the Galilee. And I enjoy it immensely. I teach in a place called Rosh Pina, where there is a man who builds small harps, the troubadour harps or the Celtic harps. And he let me teach there. And students come and buy from him the instruments. Sometimes they buy from another place, but they study with me there. I'm teaching in another 2 schools in the north and at home. So although I don't have many students for the big harp yet, only 2, but I believe that everything develops. You start with something, and then people get to the point where they want to move to the big harp, and they do it. And you know, what you're doing to me in your playing, and what I'm writing to you over and over again, it comes from my heart. It's very true. But what I'm doing in my field is important in a different way, because I feel that I'm significant in the pupils' life. They're happy. They some of them do a big progress, some of them not. But you know, many years ago, once when I taught piano, I said to a mother, you know, your son hardly plays, he talks. And she said to me, that's what I'm paying you for. So sometimes you have to talk.
But Adina, from your words and from your work as well, it's so clear to hear that you really do everything with totally pure love, which is so important, because only like that it can be the most beautiful work you can do, and you can share really everything also so purely and so really with all your heart as you do. And that's the most beautiful in your life and as you as a person are. So I thank you very much that there exist people like you are, because there is not so many of them like you, but you're really, really special.
Thank you. You know, I told you, I wrote to you yesterday or this morning, I don't remember, that we are doing growing work, growing spiritually. And you are not always aware of what you are doing. You are not always aware at what point you are in life. And what you did for me by writing me a message that you want to put me on the music first, and then as an interviewer, I said to myself, no way. What does she have to have me for? She has such great players around her. But you've done a big thing for me, because I started looking backwards. And 2 nights ago, I saw some letters from David Watkins, from Lex Valdenden, all kinds of people I met on the way, on my professional experience, that I forgot about them. I didn't know they exist. And I'm not talking now about my ego. That's not the thing. I'm not encouraging that point of view. I'm just thinking that to be aware of what you are doing to people is something that is important. And by the way, the other way around as well. I learn a lot from my pupils. I feel so lucky to have such love coming from them to me. It's not something that you can just skip and not see. I see it, and I'm very much aware.
It's a big gift. That's absolutely true. And you know, if we can please people, that enrich us as well. So it's my also big happiness and really big gift if I made you happy with this invitation, because it is really something very special for me to hear that you are very happy to be here with us, because we are happy that you are with us and you can share all your experiences.
And I'm sure that I'm not the only one. I'm sure you heard it from others. I was so happy to hear Sonia Engelfield, and to get the connection through her to her mother, which I loved. She was so special. After each performance of new music, she said the right things to me. I could understand so well what she meant. She had the ear to hear the music and to appreciate the right things in it. It was a big gift.
I remember that as well from her, and when I met her. Yeah, we miss these people. But they are still with us in our heart and in our souls and in our memory. That's the main thing, that we never forget them. And
Yeah.
because I don't know how the situation looks like now in Israel in these days. Is everything okay there? Are you locked down as well, or how the situation looks in Israel?
You know, it's a very small world. We are all in the same ship. And there are countries that are a little bit before and those that are after. We start to feel the release from this staying at home, little by little, very little. Today I had my cleaning girl for the first time with a mask, of course, and the gloves. But and some of the children can go to school. Not all the parents want to send them. My son, for example, waits a little more. But you can see the change. It starts. And, you know, I will tell you a joke now, a real joke. When the pandemic started in the United States, people rushed to buy toilet papers. And I said to myself, I have enough for the whole period. Today I finished the last one. That's the sign it's over. This was 2.5 months probably that I'm talking about, or maybe a little less. But it was a long time. And in the beginning, I felt very unique. I thought I'm a little bit crazy. No, I was happy. It was very strange. I can't explain it even now. I was walking at home. I was doing things and I was happy the whole time. It just last 3 days, 4 days, I started to feel a little bit, it's about time. So I took a big puzzle and I did it and finished yesterday. So Corona Town is saying bye-bye.
We hope so, but it's true that it depends on each of us how we take it, and if we can find some advantage from this period of time, which give us the opportunity to be at home, to do things which we might have not done before, to be with the family, to spend this time differently, but still fulfilled. So that's the most important for us to feel healthy. That's the most important, and I hope that you really could have enjoyed it, and we have enjoyed so much your time today with us, Adina, and I would love so much.
Thank you for being. I want to tell you that you probably don't know how to rest properly because you took upon yourself such a big job. But as you did the organizing of the Czech Congress perfectly, superb, you're doing it now, and it's a huge idea. I mean, I'm afraid that you're not resting enough, but that's your personality. You must do things all the time. And probably I did at home as well, not such significant things. I cooked more. I ate more properly. Usually I grab a sandwich or so, that's my meal. And this time I cooked and I sat and ate properly. And after you eat, you have to clean the dishes. So I was busy with this as well. And I have no television. I don't bring to my head all this terrible stuff that you hear over and over again. But I have the Facebook and some other things. And I read a very interesting book. And the time is passing by. And now it's almost over.
Indeed, the time flies really very fast in these days. I feel so, and I will tell you, when you said about the Congress in Prague, I was thinking about it has been maybe 7 years ago when I was deciding maybe that I will do the Congress in Prague again once, and I was thinking maybe I will do it in 2020.
Wow.
But this is some kind of symbolic, because I was really thinking to do the Congress in 2020, and then I was even asking if it's possible to do twice in the same city, because of course the congresses are always in the different cities, and the people said, like, why not, because it was so interesting, Prague, and we have such a memories, it will be nice. But then of course I knew how much work it is, and also with my family and with my work, I said, like, I might postpone it until I will retire and I will do it. But now the Corona brought it as a reality, so that finally I'm doing the Congress.
By the way, when Fia Berghout finished the Harp week and the Harp Congress took it from her hands, at 89, she did another thing in the Netherlands, and she invited me to perform the same performance with Moretti. We shared the same concert, and I was very, very much, it was a big honor for me that she invited me. And I also played modern music from Israel. In Israel, we don't have old music. If you ask Moretti to play French pieces, she plays Fauré, Tournier. I couldn't play things like this. But Fia was very happy with what I did. And later, Dean Sherman. Did you hear the name Dean Sherman?
Of course.
She wanted an Israeli composer to write a concerto in the name of, to dedicate it to Fia Berghout. And that's how the Nigun number 2 by Paramount was commissioned. And after the performance, she gave me this. Actually, it was a ring, but I can't wear a ring while playing, it turns around. So I made it, and it doesn't leave my throat. Since then, I don't know how many years it was. The Seattle performance. I have to look at the
1996.
96. Since 96, this is on my neck. and all the grandchildren put it in the mouth, and it's still there.
That's amazing. That's fantastic. And Adina, what is your plan after all this pandemia stops and finishes? Is there any plan for holidays, or do you have any plan for any of your performances, or what's your plans?
Look, one can say that when you have plans when you're young and you made a V, you can in a certain age say, okay, I did what I needed to do. But the thing of teaching, which I didn't do much when I was young and performing a lot, the teaching now is the main thing that I do. And I also give concerts in schools. I'm invited by a special, I don't know how they call it, like art for the children or something like this. I'm giving lecture concerts to children all ages. And this is something that needs a lot of traveling as well. But I do it with love. If the place don't have stairs, you know, that sometimes is a problem. I try to get the better conditions for the harp, but sometimes it's difficult. But even if one child comes to me after the concert and said, you did something to me, it was a very good experience. I feel that I did what I need to do.
Your words are so beautiful, and I totally agree. And I think that many people really only say that this is what they feel the same. And I would love really much, Adina, to thank you so much. We have many messages there. You can listen and read them and answer, of course, later on. And I would love to really thank you so much for this wonderful interview.
You.
Special.
Thank
and
you.
Today it's very special also for me to being in the car, but I'm so glad that we managed, that I have managed to be in contact. And
you chose the right color for my scarf.
Oh, yes, that's very true. And we were not talking about it right before, so we were not setting up the colors.
Yeah.
But Adina, really, you are wonderful. I'm so happy to know you, to meet you. Not only like that, we met before already, of course, but it's so lovely that you had time today and that you shared all your experiences and memories. Is there anything else what you would like to say that you will really share with the people before we will say goodbye?
Well, I think that I've said more or less everything I wanted. And I wish everyone will be healthy and don't lose the lesson that we learned in the coronavirus, the COVID-19. We have learned a lot. We don't need so much. We don't have to spend too much. And we have to be a little more at home with the family and appreciate what we have. And look after the world, not destroy our world.
Thank you so much, Adina. I think that this is the wonderful point. And really, I thank you so much for everything. And I am very happy that you were with us. I wish you all my best. Take care as well. Stay safe, everybody.
You drive back safely.
Safely. And I really wish that we will see very soon again, also in person. And I'm looking forward to see you online and all of you tomorrow with Mario Falcao, who accepted the invitation and who will talk to us from United States. So Adina, thank you very much once more. I wish you a wonderful day. Actually, evening now already. And I hope to see you very soon. You're wonderful. All my best wishes. Bye-bye. Take care.